The Monarch Series is brought to you by Sissons, Colour by Sissons, and Netherlands Insurance, proud supporter of the arts.
This is the second episode for the Monarch series. And of course, we're in the heat of, right in the middle of August, a month that is known to many Grenadians for celebrating the festival of Spice Mass. Fortunately, no Spice Mass this year, but let me tell you, we are allowed to reflect and we are allowed to celebrate a lot of our past winners. I would absolutely love to feature them all, but you know how that works. It's going to take a lifetime, if it's safe to say that. But I'm so happy to connect with this next Monarch. He's a 4-time Calypso Monarch. He's also, and he might correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's also copped the title one year for Road March as well. So I have with me today on this episode for the Monarch series, Mr. Cecil Belfon, better known to everyone in the entertainment world as Flyin Turkey. How are you doing, and greetings? Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be on this show. I follow your work, very good work, great work.
Thank you.
And I'm thrilled, to have joined, to be a part of this quality production. Definitely.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Very humbled. I know we have a lot to talk about today, but one of the things I remember as a little girl growing up, without giving away any ages here, but I remember as a little girl growing up, I always used to wonder why the name Flyin Turkey.
The name Flyin Turkey came in two parts. The first part of the name was Turkey. And how did Turkey come about? Back in the model school as kids, we played this game. I'm sure it was played in all schools, where you open an atlas, and for the younger generation who Google, we physically had to, we had this big book with a blue cover that we had to open and look at countries and so on. So the game was, you say, find a country. Yeah. And the opponent start trying to find a country, and you keep counting. Whatever the score you counted until the country was found, that was your score. Nice. So if you say find Jamaica, you start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, found it. Right, so I got a 20. 20 is my score, and then you tell the person, find Cuba, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it was a way of learning geography, learn the countries, and I wanted to get a high score, so I say find Turkey. And being young kids, some of them thought, well, there ain't no country named Turkey. And I started counting, and I put in a good 200 before they realized, see, he's serious. So by the time they actually found the country called Turkey,
wow,
I had a good score and I won. And they just started calling me Turkey. So it had nothing to do with the bird. I changed the whole narrative when I went into Calypso. Every Calypsonian was called Mighty something or Lord something. And from the day I walked in Calypso, my resolve was to change this thing around. I did not, something I teach my children, and I learned it myself. If you have 100 zebras in a pen, as Americans say zebra, but if you have 100 zebras in a pen, you can't tell the difference. Or zebras. If you put a pink stripe on one of the zebras, he stands out. So I've always told my children when they're growing up, always be the zebra with the pink stripe. And yes, I work. That's how I operate. That's how I process. I always try to be the zebra with the pink stripe. So I decided I didn't want Lord Turkey. I didn't want Mighty Turkey. And it just dawned on me. I said, I want to soar. So if you're soaring, you have to have wings. So Flyin Turkey. And it's, but later on, I think about 2 or 3 artists adopted that. There was Flying Cloud.
All right.
There was Flying Gabo. But I've always wanted to be the trendsetter. So be the alpha in what you do. We started off with FLYING. And then a few years later, I reinvented myself and left out the G. So it's Flyin turkey, like how it's pronounced colloquially. So it's
Right.
not flying, it's flying.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So let's talk about your accomplishments um, way back from the beginning to the 70s when you got involved in the art form and then copying the title three consecutive occasions and even more times after that. For you getting involved in the art form, how did how did it happen? The birth of your love for it.
Yeah, I have to give praise to GBSS and the GBSS hostel. Um, when I was small, I grew up in the hostel, and I mean, the hostel really made me, because I grew up as an only child, so I didn't have a lot of interaction at home, and which is kind of ironic because I was the only child. I started writing, so I started writing and doing art because I had to create my own entertainment because I had no siblings. So I started writing and you know, and I used to sing along. In those days, the station was called Wibs, so I used to sing along to Wibs. On Saturday night, for example, they had a program called Pick Up the Pops, and I would basically just sing the whole 10 songs along with the radio. But back to the hostel. In the hostel, I learned to swim, I learned to dive, I learned to fish, I learned sports and everything. And there was a famous name that I grew up with, may he rest in peace, and that was Timpo. Timpo, who again was a Calypso Monarch. In those days, they used to have there was a Calypso tent used to operate where it used to be called CSA, and it's now Public Workers Union, right? Right. So we used to sit on the veranda of the hostel and enjoy the calypso and everything. And then we started complaining that every year it was the same thing, it was the same trend, you know. Come down to Grenada, come down from the cold. Da 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 da. Oh, it was just rhymes. It was just like simple rhymes that we thought. So we criticized it. And when we criticized it, some of the guys said, well, why you all in form your own tent? You know, and we're like, well, we can't form our own tent, but we could have calypso shows here in the hostel. So we arranged a calypso show, and the first year Timpo won, I came second, and then Timpo left school. He was ahead of me, and when he left, I won. And but let me give you a little joke about this calypso competition. We had no instruments. We had no instruments. So you know, it's a pig snout pail. So
Yeah.
pig snout, that was your drum, right?
Wow.
You put a little piece of cigarette paper on a comb, and that was your brass. And
Wow.
a fella with a window stick playing the bass. Boom, boom.
Boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom.
So yeah,
Wow.
first year Timpo won, he got a bottle of alcohol. That was first prize. A palm soap was the second prize. And a thin nugget shoe polish was the third. Now the
We talking
nugget,
we talking
hmm?
about the 70s here, right?
Yeah. The nugget shoe polish was very important because you could not go to GBSS, you could not go to school without your shoe properly shined. So that nugget shoe polish was very important. Yeah, Timpo
Yeah.
has to get credit because he was a trailblazer. And he
Wow.
was also good at extempo, which I was never good at extempo. I like to write and play it safe, you know.
What drives you in terms of the story that you want to tell on the night of every competition that you participated in?
Um, when I started off, it was traditional to do social commentary. We used to have two, I think we didn't used to do back to back. So it was traditional to do commentary in the first round and a jump up in the second round. So I fell into that protocol that was already set. And the thing about the first time I went into competition was that I had a very strong social commentary. I think it was Black Child, or I can't remember if it was Black Child that year, but I had a very strong social commentary. And I needed something in the second round, and I decided that there were guys like I remember Ghost Daki, some of those guys had good second round songs that were jumpy. So I decided once again, being the zebra with the pink stripe, that I would go differently. So So I decided to go on imaginative. I figured, let me find something weird that would get people's attention. So I wrote a song called King in Hell. And that suggested that, one night I lie down in bed and friends believe me, a dreamer was dead. Um, so that's a kind of weird thing, but I actually started writing that on a paper bag, brown paper bag. I was just lying there around 4 in the morning. I was lying there and I was like, this could be a winner, this could be weird because if I bring Calypso down in hell, no disrespect to religion, this is just imagination. This is gonna be weird. Some people will love it, some people will hate it, but that's what I want. I want controversy. I want I want reaction.
Yeah.
You know? And so I wrote the song. That song came over so big that it grew past me. I was working at Royal Bank of Canada at the time. I used to walk around town. Nobody knew me. I used to walk and see people walking around with their transistor radio with that song blasting and they're singing along. And I was like, whoa, this thing, it went further than I ever expected. So by the time we hit Queen's Park, we did the other thing that was unique. In those days, people came to Queen's Park for presentation. People came with a placard. So every artist came on stage with two people with a placard, come down to Grenada, a flag, yada, yada, yada. So I told my guys, I had a team around me. I told them, I said, we need to do a three-dimensional presentation. And actually, I'll tell you about three-dimensional later. They were doing one-dimensional, which is just two people standing.
Right.
I said, yeah, we have to do two-dimensional. We have to use the stage and we have to tell the story and we have to choreograph accordingly, right? And that's what we did. So we went, of course, we were dressed in black robes because you simulate in hell. And one of the interesting things we did that almost got us in trouble is that one of my guys, and I want to give the team credit here, one of the guys in the team said, how can we get fire to come off the stage? And we laughed, like, oh, yeah, get fire to come off the stage. And another guy said, we could do that. So we actually accomplished that by getting methylated spirits and matches. So what happens is that a guy's dancing and he has the methylated spirits behind him.
Right.
He drops the thing and he keeps dancing. Another one passes over the spirits, lights a match and drop it and keeps walking. And then fire comes up.
Wow.
And so we had that done all around the stage. So people who saw, unfortunately, I don't think we have it on tape, but people were actually seeing fire coming up. Once the methylated spirits burn, the fire goes up. So you get that effect of fire and then no fire. We almost got in trouble because we dropped some of the on the microphone cord.
Oh my gosh.
Who saved it? Lou Smith. Lou Smith was the MC.
Bless
Those
him.
days, Lou Smith and Derek Van too, they were the popular MCs at the time.
That's right.
And I remember Lou Smith saying, the mic on fire, the mic on fire. I don't know if that means we're doing good, but the mic on fire. And then somebody put it out,
Yeah.
But that first time in Queen's Park, as we called it then, that was it was. But the real validation, I mean, the real validation of reaching the Queen's Park actually came from the people of St. Paul's.
Yeah.
Because when we started off the Calypso tent, the people of St. Paul's approved. They approved. They used to fill that tent every night. It used to be $1 to come to tent.
Wow.
Every
Wow.
night that tent was full and they approved. So they gave the validation to say you could go further than this,
Yeah.
So all glory to the St. Paul's community. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you describe your songs? The important lessons that you always want to convey to the listener, whether the message in the music, stand up for what is right, or speak up for what is truth. How would you describe your message in your music?
One of the things I do when I write is I don't sacrifice messaging for rhyme. In other words, the poetic part of Calypso is that it should rhyme. And I've seen some artists that would sacrifice part of their message just to get a rhyme. I don't do that. If the message, the salient points have to be made. In that regard, one of the things I do in my style of social commentary is to not repeat the chorus. Um, you can repeat the hook line. People need the hook line. But one of the things I do or did when I went to competition is that I always consider the fact that because lyrics brought so many points, if you keep the same chorus over and over, then you're losing points. You're leaving points on the table, so to speak.
Yeah.
If you use every chorus to make some new points and add some new messaging, within the same time frame, your song gets more powerful and more powerful. Now, it is true that, for example, if you look at Grenada Belongs to We, there's a hook line that you must repeat. Let those who dwell among us,
Yeah.
cast a first on it. But still, every one of the verses, you bring forward a new point.
And let those who dwell among us without sins cast the first stone. Show me a man who has not done wrong. One wants to blame his adversary and hide his own faults. But tell me, how long shall this game go on? Where is the love, my people? Where is our unity? We got to build a home on trust and integrity. Yeah. We have to elevate our sense of strength and purpose. We have to understand that the Spice Island must come first. Yeah.
You make your points, you develop your points, you do not repeat, you go on to new points, you get auxiliary and ancillary information about what you want to talk about. Sometimes, if you want 3 verses, you write 4 verses. You look for the weaker parts of the 3 verses, you extract them. If the 4th verse has something that's stronger, you bring it in, and then you consolidate your work. You could go as much as 5 verses,
True.
and then you search for the weak pieces. You pull them out, you substitute, make sure they're it's synchronous,
Yeah.
and then you have your song.
Wow.
Of course, if you go in the band house and the fellas say, Ian, like that piece, always be open-minded and take criticism, no matter how good you think your songs are, especially when you go in the band house. But usually, guys in the band house don't get involved in your lyrics.
Yeah.
They get involved in your key and your tempo and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I usually look to them to guide it, because if they're not happy playing it, then you have to change it.
You have written many, many songs for not just for competition's sake, but do you have a favorite?
This is the same like asking me which of my children is my
Children.
favorite. It just every one of these songs, for quite a long time, the public child was my best writing.
Yeah.
But times have changed and contexts have changed, because sometimes, based on how I write, context. Black Child was written at a time when the whole Black awareness and Black power, yada yada yada, was important. It's still important, but interestingly, when I wrote Black Child was supposed to be a throw-off song. What I mean by that, in those days of competition, we used to gauge each other, to see who come in with what.
Mhm.
So what you would do is you would do a red herring kind of thing. You would throw out a song and give the impression that that's a song you're going to the competition with. So other people will go and write against that song.
Right.
And then you keep your heavy hitter in the back. So I went to Trinidad. Prophecy, I think, is the song. So I went to Trinidad and I recorded the song at a studio called Semp on Micarapo Road. So we recorded the song. And on my way back to Grenada, I said, well, I have to check with my guys when to release this, because this is going to be the big song. So I started on the plane, I started writing Black Child. So I said, we're going to throw Black Child and everybody going to Say, okay, that's his big song. And then what happened is that Black Child took off. When I tried to bring in Prophecy in the tent, people were like, yawn. we we going with Black Child. We don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
then I decided that okay, let me just strengthen Black Child.
Black woman of you, I am very proud. You can stand up and preach your progress aloud. You boast a higher standard of consciousness. You claim to revolt in habits and dress. Yes, you have come very far, I know. Still there are so many miles to go. The road is long, we shall travel on to complete the work so fathers begun. We have to preserve our culture, for that is sacred. Of inferior complexes, we have to get rid. We have to erect indigenous pride. Let unwanted fads and fashion subside. Leave some of those foreign habits alone. Spend more time and energy on our own. We have to come together, each do his share, to promote black unity, love and care. When hatred of ourselves is contained, and only then this war shall be won.
So that was one of my favorites. Of course, when Grenada Belongs to We came, that came with a lot of passion. Grenada Belongs to We. I actually had tears in my eyes. So when it was not, it was sort of tears of, sometimes it was anger and frustration when I wrote that song.
Yeah.
That's the most taxing song I've ever written emotionally, because I went through the whole Revo period and after the Revo period, and I see so much. And I'm not here to start that conversation or to take sides, but I don't know. I see the whole chicken-headed way that our society operates politically, where we're ready to condemn our own, we're ready to cast aside. Every day we're reinventing, we doing the same thing over and over. We're not taking the good that was done. You do 9 days of good, and you fall one day, and people ready to be down your throat for the one day you fall. There's so much ingratitude in our society. It bothered me, and I had to remind people that this is our Grenada, and we ought to be our neighbors' keepers no matter what. And even when your neighbor fall, if you're not gonna pick him up, keep your hands in your pocket. Show your true colors. Don't pick him up and then go around the corner and bad talk him and say you had to pick him up. Be true. So there's a lot of emotions, and I'm describing it to you now, and some of it coming back, and some of it comes back as anger. Quite frankly, we have to do better. If not, we can't always keep just going around in a circle. And in a lot of ways, Grenada has just not gone forward because we're still mentally enslaved and culturally enslaved in these regards. And it's so easy to let go. Because a lot of us, we go in foreign and we learn how to let go, and we learn how to collaborate, and we learn how to get things done. And we want to do it home too. But one hand can't clap.
The errors we made as we strove to build a nation, do not forget people. There were times when we all were sad and times that we all regret people. Sometimes we acted so insensibly, treated our own brothers callously. Politicians criticized, native sons were ostracized, wolves in sheep clothing paraded their the evils that were done we contemplate every day, while the good things we quickly hide away. Yet if the right hand gets a cancer, well, the whole body feels the pain. So we must gather strength and start building our home again. No strength.
I love all my songs, but I think think Black Child and Greater belongs to we.
Do you think the art form is dying in terms of social commentary when it comes to the Calypso Dimanche competition?
I don't think the art form is dying. I don't think the art form could ever die. The only constant we have is change. And the thing is that the younger guys, they have their own interpretation of things. And in every genre and at every stage, you have good artists and you have crappy artists. And I'm not here to be condescending or make any apologies for the crappy artists. If you're crappy, you're crappy.
Yeah.
If you're good, you're good. And now, who's to say that, let's say, Vaughn, excellent singer, who's to say that Vaughn's song about a party can't hold a story as good as my song about some other thing? It's just different styles, different context, different storytelling, but in each case, an able artist doing his thing.
Yeah.
But I kind of single out Vaughn because I have roots in Victoria and and I like him, so I had to single it out. But they are good. They are good artists out there. I don't ever subscribe to this thing that that the art form is dying because you don't sing like me.
Right.
Because the truth is, when I came out, I didn't sing like my predecessors either. I didn't want to sing like them. I wanted to blaze my own trail. We have guys. You ever listen to Sinner? You ever Sinner?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Sinner came on the scene, and this guy did not walk the traveled road. This guy had made his own road. And then he became, I think one of his big hit was Jab Jab. It was a Jab Jab in Buckingham Park, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
So then the thing is that you can't compare Sinner's work with my work, or let's say a Jamo's work or somebody else's work. But they're all great works. They're all good works. So in every genre and in every era, you have good people and you have crappy people.
Doctor, this is my denture, so leave it there. I say, I want to feel it inside. I want to hear you. Leave it, don't take it out. I like it. Leave it, don't take it out. I like it. Doctor, it's you who put it in, so tell me now where you try it. Don't take it out. I like it.
Introducing Color by Sissons. 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 Color by Sissons.
A lot of people remember you, of course, as Flyin Turkey and all of that. But the lovely thing about the Monarch series is that it gets to bring folks, and not just anyone and everyone, but even your fan base. Let people know what you've been up to. What road you ventured into. Because I know you're a businessman and a savvy businessman too. It's a bit of fun. A savvy one.
That's right.
And that leads me to my next question regarding the business aspect of your life, of your existence.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about GrenadaMarket.com.
Grenada Market is a spin-off because in my day job, if you want to call it that, I'm an IT business consultant. So I've been working for companies. And at the same time, I was in grad school doing internet marketing. And I said two things occurred to me. One is that I had to practice what I was doing online for capstone and different things. So I said, I want to do something useful that after the school is finished, I could just carry on. Again, it's keeping with the philosophy right back from what we were talking about earlier in Calypso about embodying what's done already and moving with it. So you don't want to keep reinventing the wheel. So if I'm going to have to do all these projects for class, I said, let me get a real project that when school is done, it can continue in real life. And then the other reason, yes, and the other reason was every time I walk into a client and I give them advice and they take my advice and I see them do well, it occurs to me that my value to them is my advice, but I don't own the fruits of the advice because that I'm working in a place where it's at will. So you could be working today and by a letter you could say you're not working tomorrow. I don't need you tomorrow. Okay. So what happens is that I could run around for 20 years advising everybody else, get their stuff off the ground. And then each of them could say, well, we don't need you anymore. And I decided to build my own tent. And my own tent was going to be Grenada Market. Why Grenada Market? Because I am aware of the amount of spices we have. We have the best spices in the world. I know every Grenadian says that, but I actually believe it. We have the best spices in the world. We have the best chocolates in the world. And I realized that my niche in that was bridging the gap with the internet technology and the products, getting the products out to the world.
Wow.
Because that, yes, I always believe in looking for, you see, we back to the zebra with the pink spot. I always try to find that blue ocean spot that's not crowded. I don't like to run with, that was an area. I mean, in the case of Grenada, I remember saying to some friends one time, in the fishing business, like what happens is that if five guys on a rock and they're catching fish, guy number six, instead of coming and jam up on the rock, he should say, let me go and buy some ice. Because five guys out there catching fish. When they come in, they're gonna need ice. Let me get some coolers to sell to them.
That's right.
Guy number seven should say, let me go sharpen some knives because they had got that fish. Maybe I'm the guy to get paid to gut the fish. And guy might say, let me get transport to bring the fish down to food field or wherever. So the thing is, yeah, you always have to look at where you fit in the chain. And I thought that a good place to fit in the chain was in the becoming a purveyor of these spices and products and so on. And to fast forward, that is going very fine. So right now, we're on grainamarket.com. As you say, we have audiences worldwide, and I mean literally worldwide, because there are people who order from as far as Germany, France, England, almost every state in the US and so on. And then I decided to get into the Amazon chain because once again, why reinvent the wheel? Amazon has a big network. So we got into the Amazon network. So most of the products you can get on gradermarket.com or you could get it on Amazon.
Wow.
A lot of them are sold as Prime. They're actually sold as Prime items and that kind of thing. So in that way, I've been able to put Grenada on the map, make a dime for myself, and keep quite a lot of farmers and suppliers, engaged.
Yeah.
I don't have sole ownership of any of their products, but I'm a cog in the wheel for getting their products out. So one of the things I did, one of the hurdles in the beginning was, and I had to explain that to people, everybody wants their little label and their little name on their product.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the world. So the world knows one Nike, they know one Puma. So when it comes to branding, the world is not interested in Jane's chocolate and Mary sugar cake and June's fudge. So what I did was I created one label called Spice Caribbean, and Spice Caribbean is the brand under which all the spices go. So whether St. Andrews or St. Mark or St. Patrick or St. David. I know St. George's have spices, right? Wherever the spices come from,
Yeah.
they get presented to the world on the Spice Caribbean brand. So that was my concept. Yes, it's a
Wow.
work in progress, but it's going well.
It's
Mhm.
going well. And I mean, people would be blown away as to the attention that we, yes, we have the attention, but now it's the need for that little
Yeah,
taste of Grenada, whether it's
yeah,
a spice, whether it's a jelly or a jam, with, you know what I mean, with a pepper sauce. It's, and culinary is rising in our neck of the
yeah.
woods, if you know what I
Our,
mean.
our cinnamon, Grenada cinnamon,
Yes.
is among the best in the world. The Grenada cinnamon is what is called true cinnamon or Ceylon cinnamon.
Yeah.
In the U.S., a lot of places sell fake cinnamon. It's something called cassia, and cassia is a cousin of cinnamon. And somehow the FDA allowed cassia to be called cinnamon, but cassia is not real cinnamon. Cassia is a cousin to the true cinnamon.
Yeah.
Most of the cassia comes from places like Vietnam, China, Cambodia, those places, right? True cinnamon, also known as Ceylon cinnamon, actually originated in Sri Lanka. Um, it made its way to the Caribbean and to Grenada. I don't know what went on back in those days, the pirates and the whatevers, but a lot of these spices made their way to Grenada,
Grenada.
and, and we're happy. Yeah, some of them actually made. I think a lot made its way to Brazil and then made its way up.
Yeah.
But from my research, we're doing well in the cocoa too because we have the three major brands of cocoa could all be found in Grenada. We have some really decent bob and day too. Trying to bring back things like farine,
Yeah.
trying to get back because the thing is, it's not just about commerce. No, it's commerce and culture. It's commerce and culture.
That's right.
So, so the motto on the label is actually our spices, our culture. So it's not just about selling farine; it's about selling Grenada. But we have some very good farmers, and we have some well-intentioned small businesses,
Sure.
and we gonna do, and by we, it's not just me because I built a team around it. I have people doing different things. We're really, really, really gonna put a lot of work into getting them out on the map. And one thing I want to say before we come off the topic, we're very, very particular about the issue of predial larceny.
Mm.
That is an issue. We're very clear on that. So if you're a guy in the street with, 2 pounds of spices, do not contact Grenada Market. Do not. If you're a registered farmer and you have quality control and you visit the people in town, the quality control people, and
Right.
yeah, because there's no way legally I'm putting anything online in this litigious society
Yeah.
for anybody to sue me because they get some rancid product that somebody, and then there's the ethical, there's not just the legal, but there's the moral aspect.
That's
So
right.
we're very anti-predial larceny. I just want to put that out there.
Before we get to the end of this conversation, Isabel Fan, tell me about one of the best advice you would have received, and who would have been that person to give you that advice?
Well, I'm going to answer this in a sort of strange way. The best, and we're talking in the context of Calypso.
Yeah.
In the context of Calypso, the best advice I ever received was not from one person. People in the community of St. Paul's, Lavery, Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why that's important. You must never forget, the people that pushed you first. Because when we opened, it was called Southeast Brigade. When we opened Southeast Brigade, that was under Norman D'Souza, who was the parliamentary representative. We didn't know what we were getting into. We didn't really, it's this thing could either work. Okay. Opening night, we were there, like, maybe people come, maybe people don't come. If they don't come, we fold tent, and no pun intended, and people came out. I mean, there's not much to do there wasn't much to do. People didn't have all this cell phones and cable boxes to run home to. So those were the days when entertainment was moonlight picnic and roasting cashew and being outdoors.
Yeah.
here and there was a Calypso tent, people came out, they either come to clap or boo or whatever, or they're curious. But the people came, they accepted us. We started having tent every week, and then we started having tent midweek, and the people accepted us. So that acceptance, in a sense, was the first good advice. The people say, "Credible, you guys could do it." Now I want to go on quickly to two bandmasters from the Royal Grenadier Police Force. It was Bandmaster Mitchell and Bandmaster Leo.
You said Mitchell. Would this be Cedric's father?
Yeah, yeah,
His
yeah,
late
yeah,
father?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Matter of fact, he actually wrote. I attended a competition, the first ever OECS Calypso competition, and I placed second. He wrote the scores for that, and he gave me a lot of advice. Both of them gave me a lot of advice, and then the other one was he lived in St. Paul's. He was a saxophone player called Saddles Cadet. Uh, yeah, he would actually say, come over on a Sunday, and we would sit down and he would go over some things, and he used to teach me about range and scales, and and he helped me improve because I used to be scared to go for notes, and I used to try to keep everything down in the low register because I was scared what would happen if I go up. So he used to close the door and say, "Listen, keep going high till your bus. It's only me and you here." So those people. And then lastly, Job does Hollis Liverpool of Trinidad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we remain friends up to this day. He was very instrumental in my writing. So he actually got me down to Trinidad in the tent down there, Kingdom of the Wizards. Um, he went down there and so on. So a quick story about Kingdom of when that tent moves around, I couldn't sing every place the tent because I was doing social commentary. So the way the tents operate down there, everybody doesn't get to sing every night because they're putting on a show. They're packaging a show. So if you have 15 artists and it takes 10, it depends on where you go. So when we're in Port of Spain or we go places like UE, St. Augustine, I'm front and center on the cast because it's assumed that it's a more intellectual bent kind of crowd. And they go in places like Sangriga and I can't go on stage because once you reach down there, it's terrible.
Oh boy.
So, yeah, in those days we had Merchant. Merchant was in the tent. We had from Antigua was in the tent. We had Arrow and a couple of big guys. So it was a pleasure and a privilege performing with them. And I have to thank John Best because he was the one that he said buy your ticket. It was William Monroe again. Has to get the credit that he's Canadian. He said,
Yes.
buy your ticket and come down. By the time you come down, Mr. Monroe going to refund you for the ticket. Just come down. And you could stay by me. But I had other places to stay. But I don't want to ramble on. So these are the people that, that I want to. And of course, all the fans by default.
One of your proudest moments, sir.
One of them was the three-peat of the Calypso Crown. It has since been equaled, I think, by Scholar and Ajamo.
Tamil. Yes.
Yeah, it has been equal but not outdone. So it's still a record of sorts that's standing there. The thing is that if you calculate the amount of crowns won versus the amount of crowns attempted, I actually have a better ratio than some of these other guys.
Yeah.
Because if you go into something 10 times, there's a probability, you could get more crowns if you went 10 times. But if you only went 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In my case, 5. If you only went 5 times and you won 4 of the 5, then that's much better math.
Yeah.
But that's all academic. I mean, nobody stands in the street and calculate that, So this is the part of history that's written in small print. And nobody really cares.
Yeah.
But since I have an audience, I'm just putting it out there. So one of my proudest achievements is introducing the term spice mass. That actually happened on my watch. And I'm not looking for self-pity, but we're in a society where we do not give credit, we take things and run, and you know, so we grab the sandwich and run, but nobody remembers the baker, So yeah, so the term spice mass, simple as it sounds, the phrase was never used before. I actually wrote the song, and it took us about 15 minutes in the studio down my route St. Charles here to figure out the name, as obvious as it sounds, because I said to the guys and the musicians, I want a song, but I don't want the word, it's about Grenada Carnival, but I don't want the word Grenada, and I don't want the word Carnival in it.
Right.
And we all sat down. That's how the name came about.
Wow.
So we sat down and we started brainstorming, and then people started, then somebody ended up with Spice Carnival, and I said, well, let's keep the spice. So we had to find some other name, and then somebody blurted out, "Oh, mass!" I said, "Spice mass," and everybody just stopped and looked at each other. So in a sense, all the people who were in that room have to take credit.
Yeah.
Our own Derek Latouche was in that room. I remember him. He's significant because he arranged Grenada Belongs to Me. So he was the one that arranged Grenada Belongs to Me. But we had other guys. I remember Georges from Trinidad. We had Denny. We had quite a bit of artists. They helped to do it, and they must be known. I can't call all the names, of course. So everybody started smiling, and they're like, "Spice Mass, that's how we're gonna call it. Let's go and do the song. We don't need a name anymore." So then we did the song in Queens Park, and then some commentators started Spice Mass, and then at some point it became picked up and became official.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're in a society where people just don't care about the backstory, and people like to start history where they think it's convenient for them to start history.
Yeah.
But that's one of my proudest moments, because it's cast in stone. I mean, that we're not
Yeah.
going back from that name. So I
Yeah.
feel good to have contributed that name.
I hear it isolation, it coming from an oil drum. I think I hear an iron word, it must be from a steel band. A cultural affair, we waited one whole year, and now the spice must be rise in the atmosphere. Spice mass, spice mass, spice mass, spice mass, spice mass. We are fast coming to dawn. Spice mass, making mass all over the town. Spice mass, spice mass. Tell them to clear the way, because Carnival Day, nobody could hold back when we come on.
Let's talk a little bit about your legacy. Your legacy.
I think Spice Mass is one of them, but
Yeah.
the concept, hopefully. But more importantly is, I think the transformation that I made in Calypso when I got in, and my gratitude that people took it to another level. Because look, when I see some of the productions like Mr. Killer and Boise and some of these guys, when I see some of their productions in Soca Monarch and so on, I feel good. I feel proud, because I'm telling you, when I came into this, there used to be just two people standing for me, one on the stage with two little two little placards. That was it.
Yeah.
Presentation.
Presentation.
I transformed it, and I'll take credit with my team, because I said to them, "No way, we ain't going there and we have to do something different." So you remember I told you much earlier about the one-dimensional.
Yes.
So that was one-dimensional, and then I told you the two-dimensional with King in Hell.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you the three-dimensional. When we did Byron, I decided that I said, guys, we have to take the presentation up a notch, because people have already gotten used to the fact that we've elevated to a two-dimension. We have to move to three-dimension. So to fast forward, what we did was, when we did Byron, is we decided to start the presentation from the audience. So, so we actually had presentation on stage, and we had a presentation coming through the audience. Now that person was actually Senator Mitchell, Senator,
Yeah.
MC Senator. Yeah. So he was supposed to be the madman. I know it's not politically correct nowadays to you know to be making any sort of fun of mental whatever. So, but again, we have to take things in context. Like right now, I would not write Byron, and I would not do it right now. It's
Yeah.
a different level of awareness, or as
Yeah.
you younger people call it, a different level of woke. But you know, but in all
Yeah.
seriousness, I say I would not write that song right now. But it was big in its day. So
It was.
what we did was we actually had Senator in pajamas appearing from the back of the stand, running through the crowd, and we had Keith Welch on stage referring to somebody in the crowd, and people weren't connecting that what is happening in the audience belonged on the stage, to the
Yeah.
extent that we even had to brief the police officers in front that when he reached to move aside and let him come, because it was supposed to look real in the audience.
Yes.
We had to ask the police officers in front, let them know that it's not real, it's part of the act. So that was three-dimensional, because what we did was we took the entire audience and we drew them in and we made them part of the presentation. And when you do that, they get a level of excitement, a level of involvement, and everybody could go home and say, "Whoa, that Byron thing, I was there, he passed right in front of me," you know what I mean? So that was, yes, so I will take some credit. I will take credit and I will call that part of my legacy. But I
Yeah.
will tell you that legacy is shared. That legacy is shared with Don Charles and Calypso Castle.
Yes.
And it's very important to mention that because Don and I used to be on the phone every carnival, wondering how we could stir up trouble. How we could stir up trouble. He was running Calypso Castle, I was running Weekend. And how we stir up trouble, we would have clashes. So we would go and meet them up in Deluxe. And then on the street, people be talking smack about me and Timpo, not knowing that Timpo and I are friends and we started off together. Right? So Timpo and I would laugh because there would be people talking smack about, nah, Turkey, better than Timpo, nah, Timpo, Turkey can't touch Timpo, blah, 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 blah. And we would just stay quiet because we wanted it, because it resulted in mobilization, ticket sales, everything.
There you go. You're talking about this, and I'm thinking to myself, my God, when you think of modern day pop culture now as well, and hip hop movement and all of that, where people talk about the term beefing, and you think men are really beefing with each other. Da, da, da. It's all a strategy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
all, and people need to, I mean, people took a while to catch on to it. But you're talking about this, and I'm thinking, my God, this happened decades ago, but it happened
It
and
happened.
it
Yeah,
worked.
we would when we go up to Deluxe Ram Cram. They up there for hoping that Tella and Tenna and Timpo and Pele, may he rest in peace, and Mr. D and so on. They want these fellas to put some licks on weekend.
Come on.
And then we kind those days that what you call that place in over in the yacht service, the marina there, called
Fancy Island.
Clancy Island.
Yeah.
When we meet in Clancy Island, the biggest amusement in Clancy Island, to see fellas try to sneak in by coming over on some little boats to get
Oh
in.
boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, when we meet in Clancy Island, that was a clash.
Yeah.
And the truth is, Don, every carnival, I used to get apprehensive when Timpo and them before Timpo and them release. I couldn't sleep good.
Really?
Them fellas had some. Them fellas, they were, I used to relax after they release when they release all their calypso, when they release all their work. Then I used to gauge myself, like, okay, let me see how we're sitting with these guys this year,
Hmm.
because they were creative.
Yeah.
And get on that base. I mean, those guys used to push a lot of like Zookish, Canasish sort of music that you get from Dominica, sort of Frenchish touch and so
Yes.
on.
Yes.
They were the leaders on that. They were very good on that, and I loved that music. I couldn't get my guys to do it as well as them. I actually fell in love with that music way back from bands like Gramax and Liquid Ice and the band from Dominica. There's a big band from Dominica. I did King in Hell Part 2. again, it was deliberate because nobody has ever done that before. Like make a song and then come back and make another one, continuing the story
Continuing.
and call it part two. So that again was deliberate. Once again, the zebra with the pink stripe. I just like to do things differently. So when
Yeah.
we did King Hell Part 2, we did it in a sort of zouk. You know, the zouk has that sort of staccato bass and boom, boom,
Right.
boom, 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 and so on. But Calypso Castle, Don and them, they had that down pat. And then also Don has to be credited with the one record I ever did, and it remains in legacy, Innocent Blood.
Yeah.
That was done. That was done in their studio.
I said they preaching war. Say where they kill them for. One of them tourists and luring. Singing one of them tourists and luring. One of them tourists and luring. One of them tourists and luring.
I think the transformation of Calypso tent. Um, when we started the Calypso tent, I put in some rules in the tent, and some people hated it, and then everybody. One of the rules was that you cannot mix with the audience. Um, you cannot be seen by the bar. You cannot mix with the audience. You cannot appear on stage in the same clothes that you came to the tent with. These things were not there before, and I told them, I said, you just can't do it.
Well, I just want to say hearty thank you so much for making time for me, for Lexan TV, for the audience of Lexan TV, and hopefully a new set of eyes that are really going to fall in when this interview airs, because I know there are going to be lots of folks um, from the era of the 70s come
Yeah.
forward who are really true fans of yours, who may have seen interviews before of you, sir, but of course, I'm sure you've added a little bit here and there that can add some more excitement to your very decorated history in the art form, and of course, as a businessman as well. So I really want to say thank you. I truly appreciate your time. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes, and thanks also because I mean your show is a quality show. It's a really great show, and
Thank you.
it's a privilege for me to be a part of it. And thank your fans, and thank my fans. We still have a lot of work to do. There's always a lot. Belated Grammy and the team at the Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah, they did well. They did so well. They did their best, and whether in calypso sports, whatever, that's all you can ask for your best.
That's
So
right.
thank you for the opportunity.
You're most welcome, sir.
Just to remind you again,
That
this
that
is the Monarch series. This is a
Let
specially
us
produced
analyze
series,
just a
of course,
little
that's going to be
more.
running for the entire month of
Our inner
August.
thoughts more
We're
deeply
celebrating all our past
explore.
winners in
Bam, bam, bam.
Soca,
Personal
Calypso,
feelings
and
away.
Queen Show.
Be more
Don't forget
objective,
to
I
stay
say.
updated with
Even if it's
everything that
hard,
we're
this
posting on the
is
channel.
right.
Hit the notification button,
We have to
and don't forget to
recognize
hop
the
over to our
conditions
YouTube
that
channel
brought us
and subscribe
to.
today. Until
Then
next
determine
time,
which way
remember
we
it's
want to
Lexan
go.
TV where it's all about
Because the
life.
same stick that pretty
Take care,
black
bye
dog.
bye.
Well, it's the same now, we'll strike the white. So for Grenada's sake, we have no choice but to unite. That's right. Ba ba dum ba ba dum. And let the hosts who dwell among us without sins cast the first stone.
Master,
Show
show
me a
me a
man
man
who
who
has
has
done
not
nothing
done
wrong. There you go.
wrong.
Each one wants to blame his adversary and hide his own faults. But tell me, how long can this thing go on? Where is the love, my people? Where is our
We
unity?
still belong to we.
We have to praise our house. A bus. But
Yeah, yeah.
costume decorators and even wire benders, everybody fighting to get themselves in full gear. This time Comancheros running, the solos are playing up the band.
Yeah.
All the fans waiting really, I can't remember. To see the champion, they just get real busy creating new harmony. And they want to make sure everything up to scratch with the melody. The march grand panorama night, all them steel bands coming down Queen's Park, dressed in their outfits, hiding in the dark. When the boy, I can't remember all names.